Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. This is Throwback Thursday, and on this Throwback Thursday we're going to be taking a look back at 10 of the funniest Christmas movies you should be watching this year and every year. So let's jump right into it. Okay, so in no particular order, because who can really decide what the most funny Christmas movie of all time is? I mean, all I can do is give you my picks for the movies that I find incredibly hilarious that I must watch every year. So here are the 10 in no specific order. Coming in at number 1 is Scrooged from 1988. And Scrooged tells the story of an updated Ebenezer Scrooge played by Bill Murray. He runs a television station and he is the youngest to ever hold this job in the history of that channel. Now, the thing of it is, they're doing a live version of the Christmas Carol on the exact night that he will be visited by 3 ghosts to change his ways. The movie's updated, it's funny, it's got a lot of slapstick comedy and a lot of nice gags in it. I highly recommend this movie. If you are a fan of the Christmas Carol or any of the variants of A Christmas Carol, you should check this one out. Next up, we have A Christmas Story from 1983. And A Christmas Story tells the story of Ralphie, a young kid who all he wants for Christmas is a Red Ryder BB gun. Now, he's met constantly with these adults and authority figures warning him against this, saying that this is not a good present for a little kid to have. He'll shoot his eye out. So, the entire movie, he's trying to convince everybody that he needs this Red Ryder BB gun. But that's not even half of the movie, because it just goes on and shows you a much simpler time. It takes place in a simpler era. And you've got this family that is funny to watch. The entire dynamic of this movie feels so different from your normal everyday Christmas movie that you would get today. And that makes it one of the reasons it's on this list, is that it just provides this look into an innocent time. But in addition to that, it does a really good job of getting into Ralphie's head, where whether it's a scenario where he is saving his family thanks in part to the Red Ryder BB gun, or whether he is going blind because he said a bad word and his mom washed his mouth out with soap. So the movie has a lot of humor like that, and not to mention a lot of scenes in the movie you will recognize from other movies, either being mentioned in other movies or actually seen copied in certain movies. And that's not a bad thing either. It definitely has its share of iconic scenes. Next up, you have Elf from 2003. And it tells the story of Buddy the Elf, a human child who was brought up, raised as an elf in the North Pole. He decides one day, upon finding out he's not an elf, that he has to go to the city and find out who his father is. And the movie is absolutely hilarious. Will Farrell does such a great job as Buddy the Elf, trying to learn the ways of the human side of everything versus how the elves handle everything. And it's magic from beginning to the end. It's one of those movies that a lot of people really enjoy watching this time of year, and I can really see why. It delivers on the comedy, and not to mention, there are a couple times when you hear a song in the movie and it kind of gets you moving a little bit. You know, that's always a good thing. I find that this movie is one that I enjoy every year, so that's why I put it on the list. Next up is Christmas Vacation from 1989. Now, otherwise known as National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation, this follows the iconic Griswold family from European Vacation and the National Lampoon's Vacation movie before it, as they plan on having a nice family vacation at home for Christmas, just a Christmas at home. Of course, all their in-laws and everything else come in, and things go haywire. Clark Griswold, as always, is just failing left and right at everything he does, in only a way that Chevy Chase can pull off on screen. Chevy Chase, with his usual pratfalls and his usual brand of comedy, with this movie being one of a lot of people's picks for their favorite Christmas movie of all time. And I get it. It is a very funny movie to watch. It's another one of those that is iconic, and it's funny from beginning to the end. Next up is Christmas with the Cranks. Christmas with the Cranks stars Tim Allen and Jamie Lee Curtis of Halloween. And Jamie Lee Curtis and her husband, played by Tim Allen, decide that since their daughter is away, that they're just going to forget about Christmas. Only they live on this street where everybody is celebrating Christmas. Everybody wants them to celebrate Christmas, and there is no exception to the rule. And the heights and levels that these people will go to make sure that they are celebrating the holiday is just insane. It's well worth a watch if you are a fan of Jamie Lee Curtis. If you are a fan of Tim Allen, you should definitely give it a try. And it's one that I watch every year. Next up is Deck the Halls from 2006. What happens when Ferris Bueller grows up? What happens when he has a family and has to have some sort of responsibility? Well, this movie doesn't answer that question, but what it does give us is Matthew Broderick playing a small-town dentist with all the same charm that he brought to the Ferris Bueller character. And he is the Christmas guy in this town. Everybody knows him. In comes Danny DeVito and his wife, and they kind of upheave everything that Matthew Broderick stands for. In addition to that, they decide that, Danny DeVito decides that he wants to be able to see his house from space. And thus begins Matthew Broderick's worst nightmare. Deck the Halls is very funny at times, and a lot of the jokes really land. So it's well worth a watch if you like a good comedy. Next up is Jingle All The Way from 1996. And what can I say about Jingle All The Way? Jingle All The Way stars Arnold Schwarzenegger as a husband and father who forgets to get his kid the most popular toy on the market, Turbo Man, and must brave Christmas Eve rush to get that toy under the tree by the end of the day. And he's not alone. There is a mailman that is trying to get it too. And what follows is the two of them having a lot of times where they're butting heads, where everything that they try to do to help each other out, they betray each other left and right. The movie is a wild roller coaster of fun, and it's well worth watching. Phil Hartman plays in the movie as Arnold's neighbor, a newly single dad who is kind of infatuated with Arnold's wife, which isn't a very good idea. But the movie is good, clean fun, and I highly recommend it. Then we have Spirited from 2022 with Ryan Reynolds playing a really horrible guy that an angel, Will Farrell, must try to kind of Ebenezer Scrooge into a good existence, if you will. The movie's a musical, and these two icons playing off of each other is one of the most brilliant things I've ever seen. Ryan Reynolds does evil in only a way that Ryan Reynolds can do, and it is a lot of fun to watch. If you have not seen this movie at all, I would highly recommend you check it out. It has become one of my new all-time favorites. And then we have the Christmas Chronicles with Kurt Russell playing Santa Claus, who after two siblings mess up his night of delivering presents, he is forced to kind of teach them a lesson and take them along to help to fix the problem. What happens next is sort of action-packed and comedy, but it's still done in a very family-oriented fashion, and it's a lot of fun to watch. Kurt Russell is a joy. He gets a lot of attention in this movie that he really deserves. A lot of time where he could show off some of his more comedic charm. And he doesn't ever come across as absolutely slapstick funny, but it is something that is worth watching. If you like a good sort of comical little feel-good movie, you can do a lot worse than this one, and that's why it's on the list. Last up, we have Home Alone from 1990, perhaps one of the most iconic Christmas movies of all time. It tells the story of Kevin McAllister, who, after being left home by his family in their rush to get away for their Christmas vacation, finds himself fending off two would-be criminals who are making the rounds robbing houses on Christmas Eve. He needs to protect his house at all costs. And in order to do this, he sets up a bunch of traps to hold the criminals back. The movie is a lot of fun to watch, and it is very comical. It is one of the movies that is a guilty pleasure of mine, so I watch it every year, along with its sequel, Home Alone 2: Lost in New York. But I want to know what you guys think. Are there any comedies I don't have on this list that you think deserve a place on this list? We want to hear from you. As always, we want to know what you guys think, so make sure you're leaving us that comment in the comment box below, letting us know what you think. Then make sure you're hitting that like button. It's free. It helps the channel. We appreciate it. Miko says we need more subscribers. You don't want to disappoint Miko, so go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Hit that notification bell while you're down there so you don't miss a single video we do. Friends, at the end of the day, I know it, you know it, and Miko knows it. Fandom is family.